Run like I don't got any stake. Yeah. Run it up. Yeah.
Oh, you want you this front three, boy? We're gonna be key and Son and Bill, but nobody can stop these men, boy.
True.
Welcome to the box score. My name is Dominic. As you know, my co-host Ajay Williams. We have here on the program two new hosts as well. We have in the top Rohan Ford, Mr. Oasis, Mr. Tottenham Hotspur. Tough one there. We have Graeme, who is Mr. Milan, a savvy performer when it comes to talking about sports and football in particular. And today we want to discuss, was Frank Lampard's sacking justified? We can lead with Ajay Williams here. What do you think, bro? What do you think about that?
I mulled over this question for a little bit, right? Because this is a very interestingly worded question, right? You see that phrase justified?
Justified. Mm-hmm.
The justified is the key phrase inside here, right? It could trip you up a little bit.
Yes.
So here's the thing, right? From my perspective, justification is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So it's there's no one truth about it. I think in one sense, if you're looking at it from Frank Lampard's camp, and I feel like I've heard you say this argument, and I'm guessing you'll get into that, right? But if you look at it from his perspective, it's like, all right, he was basically supposed to be on the cusp of like a new project at Chelsea, a new revolution, where they had like the transfer ban, so they couldn't bring players in, so he kind of had to work with what they had, and then afterwards they allowed him and the backroom staff to splurge and whatnot. So it seemed like it was supposed to be a long-term project. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, yes, it's easy to say that it wasn't justified. But then I'm thinking of it as well from the perspective of this is what Chelsea does.
Exactly.
This is, at the end of the day, is anyone really surprised that this happened? No. So and this is not a one-time thing. And you guys were discussing it off air before, but this is what Chelsea does. Essentially, this is what they do. They fire people when results aren't going away. And in addition to that, there was also a reported talk of him falling out with what's the woman's name
Marina Gorneskopia.
Right. I could never remember that name. But either way, there was a report of him falling out with her. So obviously, when you're falling out with the people in the hierarchy, it's not going to last, right? So I love how you worded that question. I'm not going to say whether or not it was justified. I think it can be looked at from both ways, and I'll allow you guys to go ahead. I think depending on what perspective you're looking at it from, then you can say it was justified or not.
If good evening, everyone. Rohan. If you want to talk about justifications, right? What more justifications do you need than this man has been at the club for 18 months and nobody could tell me what style of football he's playing? What is Frank Lampard's style of football? What is his managerial methodology? What is Frank's identity that he's imposed upon these players? Anybody got answers? Because at the end of the day, I think what we've seen is a manager trying to find his feet. He looked like he was on like a figure skater that gets thrown into the Olympics without any practice, without ever putting on skates. The man was slipping and sliding and chopping and changing and system adjusting and trying to figure out what is the best team to play against who, and they can do this. I think Frank simply saw an opportunity that, given his heartstrings and his affiliation with the club, was too good to pass up. But it was too big of a step for him at this stage in his managerial career.
I completely disagree with that, Rohan. And let me take it back a step further for you guys. Talk about 18 months ago when he was hired. This is a man that came with no European pedigree. He had no top flight experience. And he simply hadn't coached at the top brass. You brought a guy from the lower levels of football. Like Ajay said, it was almost like a changing of the guard, a changing of philosophy by Chelsea management. This man, with not a transfer session, took Chelsea to fourth place. And the thing is, he lost fourth place in the latter stages of the season. He was right in third place for a long period of time. He established a style of football there. He worked with a lot of young English players, which was more his style of, more his presence, and he was able to establish something going forward. The new season began. Chelsea were now open to transfers. They purchased at least 8 players. It didn't look as though the club looked as at Frank Lampard and said, well, look, what players you feel we can improve with? Because they just went out and splashed money on young, talented individuals that not necessarily would be to Frank Lampard's liking. Then he had a massive squad. You lose Eden Hazard the season before. You lose Willian, who are both talismans at the club. Willian was a talisman at the club.
Not in that final season. Talisman is a bit too far for that final season.
William had some good moments at Chelsea, and he.
I'm not speaking the entirety of his career.
I'm saying talisman. He ain't no talisman.
He was an
experienced player. I guess
he's denigrating the word talisman when putting that Willian in the same sentence.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to digress. Sorry, but that word has sent me into a mini panic attack, right?
You brought in Kai Havertz with no real position to play him, no real ideology of what to do with him. You brought in Timo Werner. You established that you need a striker, even though that Tammy Abraham scored 15 goals in the previous season, and he really looked like he could kick on in this season. You brought in so many players and now left Frank with a job of how to because
you mean left him with a job to manage?
Transfer fees of over 70 million for one player like Kai Havertz, and you pay for Timo Werner. Management is expecting you to implement these players into the starting 11, which is difficult when you already have players that you feel as though can give you the right position and the right style that you need. Chelsea conceded 50 goals last season, right? I can tell when it's very important. They brought in only Thiago Silva, a defender that is on a sharp decline. You concede the most goals in the top 10, and you only brought in one defender of that.
Chilwell, based on his profile,
Chilwell playing as a left back, so that could kind of curtail that as well. You're saying that Chelsea in its entirety were justified in making the sacking of Frank Lampard?
This is my thing, right? This is my thing, Dom, right? I hear what you say in terms of all these different circumstances which made Frank's job more difficult. In terms of whether the signings that were brought in were actually ones that he approved or ones that he basically had a role for these players to play in terms of his system or whatever the case may be. But while I could agree with that those are factors to be considered, the reality is that Frank's win percentage at Chelsea has been the worst since the last. I can't confirm right now, but I saw a stat which basically said he had the lowest win percentage out of all the managers, and this is on the back of the club spending $222 million. So whether those were Frank's signings, whether they were approved by him, the reality is that the club made those signings. They made significant investment into the squad. So at the end of the day, there's that expectation following the previous season where you didn't sign anybody, you finished fourth, you made it to the FA Cup finals, you lost to Mr. Williams here. You understand me? But at the end of the day, you did something. You know what I mean? If Frank had won the FA Cup, it would have been he had a successful season because he finished in top 4.
There's no medals for second place.
But right, I'm saying at the end of the day, if he had won that, there would have been a different narrative around his
coming
first
from
season.
Pochettino.
You know,
I know this well.
But this is my thing, right? I don't feel that as you said, he lost the dressing room. Those were rumors that he lost the dressing room. They had some issues with the players. The results on the field were very inconsistent. You understand me? The players he brought in weren't able to, influence the game as much as he would want. So there were a lot of factors going against him. I mean, if you were to compare his situation to, say, for example, Solskjaer at Man U, they took a similar path. Maybe as Ajay rightly said, this is Chelsea we're dealing with. At the end of the day, justifications in the eyes of the person who's basically the beholder. So you have Chelsea, who has a history of pulling the trigger when it comes to sacking managers. So maybe he would have found more favor at another club, which may have been given more patience, given him more time. But in the circumstances, it would be hard to say that he should remain in the job, especially in light of the club that we're dealing with. It's Chelsea. They want results immediately, regardless of whether they are the circumstances in which you want success is unreasonable. That's the reality. You could be working for somebody who said, listen, this is what you want at the end of the day. It may seem almost impossible, but by signing up and being part of that project, you basically say, hey, I'm on board with what you want. So if you don't give me what I want, unfortunately, whether the circumstances are hard, whether they're ideal or not, if I fail, they fail. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's just tough luck for tough.
It's very tough. And we have a
Yeah,
variable in the pandemic as well. You know, you facing the case of a pandemic, and then obviously not being able to train, have a full preseason as well. Those are variables that management should even look at.
But we all have that.
I'm not denying that, Rohan. I'm not denying that. But we're seeing closer competition in various leagues this season in comparison to last year, where Liverpool basically won the league by this time. Liverpool have not shown that level of strength and fortitude this season like they did last season. So I'm saying that is a variable we must look at as well.
As a non-factor. Nope, that's a non-factor because it affects everyone equally. Everyone has that handicap to cope with in various ways.
It's a sympathy, Dom, but it's one that in the real world wouldn't hold much weight. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't hold any water.
I could understand what you're saying, and what you're saying is 100% correct. But the reality is, when it comes to business, when it comes to results and stuff, those things go out the window. And quite frankly, no pun intended, Frank was not the man to take the club forward. And I think as Rohan was saying, he came into, and you also alluded to that, he didn't have the pedigree, the European experience. He came into the club, he did well in the first season. All right, cool, we go to second season. Let's see how it's shaping up. For whatever reason, they felt based on what we invested, maybe our results aren't aligning with what we want in terms of our target, our objectives. I don't know. We have to ask ourselves what was his objectives at the beginning of the season? What was he supposed to achieve? Was he on course to doing that? You know what I mean?
I think, Graeme, so I can echo the sentiment of Pep. And when they went around to the various managers asking what their thoughts were on Frank Lampard's setting. And Pep Guardiola simply said, we all know this. We are 3 or 6 bad games away from being sacked as a top flight manager.
Yep.
All of us. All of us. Not Frank, Ole. Look, in the same December, Arteta was 1 or 2 results from getting fired.
Yep.
And what did he do? He corrected course. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at many times has been on the precipice,
but it didn't occur.
So right. Why didn't it
occur?
No. I can't
because
say
he got results. He got
results. Come on. Time and time again, Ole has shown
games that were not expected.
But Dom,
I disagree.
The number one context you have to appreciate is that what Rohan is saying is true.
The structure, Mario, is different to Chelsea.
Right, exactly.
Right, but he's saying that every manager is 3 or 4 bad games away from a sacking. No,
typically speaking, yes.
That is
at the top flight.
Yes, typically speaking, in terms of on average.
Because Ole has lost those games on a stretch and was not sacked. Pep Guardiola can lose those games on a stretch and not be sacked as well because of the faith the club have in those managers. Frank does not have the faith from Chelsea that those managers have.
I can tell you 2 distinctions there, right? Pep, at the end of the day, he has a history of winning things, especially has a history with Manchester City. So he's going to be given a little bit more leeway than average.
Exactly. Right, but that's my point.
Right. Secondly, when it came to Ole, they gave him a contract extension almost in the middle of the season. So their hands were almost like tied to buy into this project.
Why did they give him that contract extension?
Because they had
exceptional results.
Right. So when he
had a dip,
first come on,
and then he returned to form.
Exactly. And then after he had the contract extension, he dropped poor and he finished the season. But
he still had results. He still had results in Champions League.
They committed to Ole. They gave him the contract extension. So you know what? Let me give it some time. The following season, he was the bookies' favorite to be gone by December. He was mine. I figured he would have been gone. I figured Ole, he ain't gonna last the snow cone. But yet he came in.
Of the league.
You know what I mean? And he did. You know, he did some things, and he got the confidence of the backroom staff. So right now he's in a place of comfort for the time being.
I still not convinced, but mine is a separate discussion.
Dom, I kind of wanted to, as much as it will pain me to agree with Rohan, right? I think let me go back to something that he said, and I feel like this is kind of the reason why there is, if you're looking at it from this perspective, there is some sort of justification for it. Chelsea just had no identity. they like, even with all, I understand the point about is a lot of new players and taking time to gel or whatever, but you couldn't even tell what Frank was trying to do with the team. So I think that could have been admittedly, I feel like that was a factor as well. It's one thing to be getting bad results, but getting bad results while you don't even have an identity on the field is something
exactly.
So because I kind of want to compare it to the Arsenal situation a little bit, because like when Arteta was going through that bad patch, I think people like had a lot of Arteta out and that kind of thing, and people were saying, oh well, they fire Emery for the same thing. Like under Emery, you could tell the players didn't want to play for him. It was at a point where you could see that he couldn't drive the club forward anymore, and he was not the man for the job. He had to go. In this case, I was looking at Arteta's team when we were going through that bad patch, and I'm like, you know what? We and for want of a better comparison, we are like one player away from the Bruno Fernandes effect, and that's essentially what happened. We needed someone to come in with creativity, and it turned the results around. So I don't think necessarily, to go against you here, Rohan, I don't think Arteta was necessarily on the chopping block. I feel like that's media.
Exactly.
But so I feel like he would have been given time.
Point. I think the fundamental aspect of this is that Chelsea is a different structure to various clubs.
Yeah.
Chelsea sacked their manager almost immediately. Manchester United is more of a family-based club. Man City have built such a club like that. So they're going to give their manager time.
Well,
they're going to give their manager time.
I think Pep earned his tenure at City.
Pep earned it, correct.
I think Pep has given himself.
Pep earned his tenure at every club.
Right. But I'm saying, true.
But we're not talking about Pep Guardiola managing Chelsea.
But Rohan, what was your statement? Pep would have been. What was your statement? Your statement was you are every manager, and I can stress on every manager is 3 or 4 games away from a sacking. That is absolutely no. I'm going against that point.
Let me repeat it for you because you get mixed up. Pep Guardiola, I am echoing Pep Guardiola's sentiments that every top flight manager is 3 or 6 bad results from a sacking.
You believe
I'm not saying. No, listen to me, Dom. Listen to me. No, listen. Exactly. I'm not saying on the 6th result you get sacked.
Exactly.
I'm saying that's when they start making the calls to find another manager and have options.
Your job is
because they know that you cannot see a train crash happening and not start to take.
It's like you getting a warning letter at work.
You get warnings. You get warnings.
You start to do by your performance job. The man say, look, we ain't ready to fire you yet, but we are taking note of what's happening and we are not pleased. So just be on the lookout that your job is under microscope.
Get some results.
We're reviewing, we're making an assessment here because we're not liking the direction you're going. And he's correct. As he said with Arteta, as Ajay said, obviously he didn't think that Arteta's job was on the chopping block per se, but I just think that has been in the media. But if it is that he had continued on that spiral in terms of negative results, in terms of not getting results in a particular way, that becomes more amplified. It becomes
right
more
after that. Arteta went and beat said Frank Lampard.
Yeah. Yep.
In their worst run of form. So you're telling me that you could see
there he started to pick up.
How bad that run of form was, Rohan?
The Arsenal, right?
Yeah. How bad it was?
Arsenal was a point above a few. I think it was a point.
Yeah, I think it was 4 points above the relegation zone. 7 games winless. It was some.
7 games winless, 4 points above the relegation zone, and the team below them had a game in hand. So Arsenal could have technically touched relegation zone, and I think that would have been enough to fire Arteta. And I would have taken a snapshot of it. I would have taken a snapshot of it because that.
Well, when Frank was
like 2 points behind him, 2 points behind him, Flick. We 2 points behind him now, 2 points.
Don't worry about all that.
No. You be worried, though.
What position Frank was in when he was sacked?
He was in 8th. I believe he was in 8th or 7th. 7th or 8th. But
I see.
But you get mixed up.
I think it's self-explanatory at this stage. I think it's self-explanatory.
You asked if Frank Lampard was justified in being sacked. 110% he was. He did not showcase in his tenure that he had the ability to grow Chelsea Football Club in the time frame that would be required for them for their results and their successes, which was by the end of the season.
According to Marina, it wasn't enough. Straight.
Right, it wasn't.
Marina also got sacked
twice. Not once, twice. And
Frank Lampard has been part
of the league as well.
Frank Lampard has been part of the Chelsea Football Club structure for over a decade. He knew walking into that job that the expectations are high.
Well, listen, he even made a comment about Villas-Boas, where he said, well, maybe Villas-Boas came too early. This Lampard, when he made a comment about Villas-Boas, when Villas-Boas first came to Chelsea, Graeme. And he said maybe it wasn't working for him, and maybe he came too soon.
The comment on Villas-Boas was that Villas-Boas came into the club and he tried one or two things, and it was clear that what he was trying was not working, and therefore maybe he was too young for that appointment. That was what he said.
The irony in that statement, huh?
And it is the exact same thing for himself, as well as, I'm glad you made a point about comments. The comment Frank Lampard made after the Leicester defeat, before his sacking, about the fact that a club like Chelsea cannot compete. He said that given the current situation, I think he said, basically, given what we have right now, a club like Chelsea cannot compete. I will fire him on the spot as well. Those words cannot leave my manager's mouth.
No.
Those words cannot leave my manager's
I think by that point, he probably knew the writing was on the wall.
He understood that he was on the chopping block. He already knew that.
You think it was a formality? I think it was a formality.
Personally, I'm not surprised by it. So
I'm not surprised either because it's a structure.
Chelsea is just make these knee-jerk reactions.
Exactly.
And then to bring in the most painstaking part of this is the fact that the man bring in Thomas Tuchel. So we were just talking about Chelsea not having an identity. None of Tuchel's teams have ever had an identity.
Exactly. So it's mind-boggling to make this decision on Frank Lampard, and you bring in a manager that has
Sarri 2.0
ignorant throughout his entire. Come on,
tactically inept.
I love it. I love it.
But people say that. I think with Thomas, I think people were saying that he doesn't really have the personality to be a big club. In terms of dealing with egos and dealing with those things. I mean, at Dortmund, he was just okay. He went to PSG, and I think he was just there for the ride. It was just an experience. Chelsea with me, I honestly feel that there is potential for him to do good at Chelsea.
There is.
I think the Premier League and the style of football that the Premier League plays, I think it gives him an opportunity to really explore his tactics and try to implement them in the game of football. Yeah,
at Chelsea.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, when I say explore them in terms of you're working in a different league, so obviously you would have been coming from the Bundesliga and obviously coming from the French league. So in the Premier League, we would all know that is the Premier League is not a very tactical league in terms of how they play football. It's very intense, very athletic, very technical to certain regards, right? But it's not as tactical. There's rumors or there's just speech around him in terms of he's supposed to be a tactical manager. I guess, for example, if you look at the stats from his first game, they're saying that he completed more passes than any other Chelsea manager. However, you know what I mean? I mean, right, all right, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a positive. So in other words, you in your first game, you've already established that your side has a particular identity, which is, i.e., you're using the ball well, you have possession. So just remember, this is his first game. Then obviously he comes off a positive result today in terms against 2-0 against Burnley. That's good. So in terms of how he starts, it looks good. So he may have the ability or the opportunity to become a better manager.
Whenever teams have changed managers, the players go and perform because competition is there for everybody to try to get into the starting 11.
So you believe he's a good fit for the club, or you think he will end in disaster?
Gone in 2 years.
Inevitably gone in 2 years. Less than 2 years, maybe.
2 years max. 2 years max.
Okay,
18 months.
Listen,
because he has an 18-month contract now.
18 months.
I honestly don't see him coming back.
That's not going to be renewed.
But
I don't feel so either.
But this is the main point. Regardless of whether he's renewed at the 18 months, doesn't mean that his impact on the club will not have been a positive one. So you may argue and say if it was indeed positive, he would have gotten an extension. But I'm just saying at the end of the day, you remember that months, he could actually do a good job. He could bring them back into the top 4. he made him. You never know. You never know.
Do you remember that Chelsea won the Champions League with?
Fair enough. That's fine.
Who's that manager they won it with?
Di Matteo, but he was a
Di Matteo. Roberto Di Matteo won the Champions League with Chelsea after Chelsea.
He was an interim manager.
He came in for 6 months and won the Champions League. So you think that Chelsea do not know that the value of
and then he didn't last 9 games and then in new season he was going in 9 games.
They went into that new season with the Champions League and with Spurs not getting into the Champions League on 4th place. So I remember it clearly.
Right.
But my point is that they got a result. And that is exactly what they're hoping to get from Tuchel.
That's
some
results. He may get something. He may not last. He might start next season.
They want some results.
But you never know. I'm not.
The truth of the matter is that outside of the top 6 places, they won't get back into Europe. That's as simple as it gets. You won't get into the top 4. And that's where they change the manager. Right now, Frank was 9th. And they needed some instant results because they felt like as though they were losing their path and losing, getting into that threshold of the top 4. So that's why they changed manager. That's ultimately the decision there. Arteta, however, is outside the top 6 and still maintaining his job.
We built differently.
We're not built different.
That's not necessarily a good differently, but it's just differently.
Precisely. So that is fundamentally the point that I made in the beginning as well. Because Arsenal and Chelsea are completely different structures. Simple as that.
Fair.
Is it true, Frank? Like Arsenal have been looking for a succession plan for Wenger. Essentially it.
There are clubs that look for a manager.
And that's why Man U is in a similar position in terms of how they would have given Ole a little bit more time.
Exactly.
Because, as you say, they're looking for a succession plan. Chelsea, on the other hand, they
just want instant success every moment. But how long can that last, Rohan? How long? You keep talking about how
they are the most decorated English club in the last decade. What do you mean how long it can last?
Yeah, but all the managers basically gone.
Well, who cares about the managers? You go through a club and be like, yo, I missed this manager. You want trophies, you want silverware.
Yes, you're going to hire the best possible candidates for the job. At the time, it was Antonio Conte.
And then he gone.
At the time, it was Maurizio Sarri.
Serving purpose.
Look at the quality of managers they have hired over that time period.
Each of those managers delivered a trophy and went about the business.
I don't feel Chelsea
will change. The club is trophy driven.
I think Chelsea will always have that in them. I don't expect to have no long tenure. You're not going to have no long tenure manager at Chelsea. That's not within their culture. It doesn't seem to be something that's within.
I have accepted Jose Mourinho as my manager because I want a trophy. I don't want no prettiness.
Still ain't getting them.
I don't want no succession plan. I don't want no legacy. I don't want nothing. I want silverware.
I want to make a point here, right? And I know early on in the season, Rohan, you were questioning Pep Guardiola, and you were saying he needs to look at his tactics, maybe look
and he addressed
a different way to play because he was suffering from some poor results. Manchester City is top of the league. Yeah. Top of the league with a game in hand.
Dom was waiting. Yo, Dom had this in the chamber.
I want you to touch on that point because I was waiting for this moment. Because you criticize him heavily.
Pep Guardiola, he listened to my criticisms and addressed it. Because at the end of the day, the issue with Pep Guardiola was that Pep Guardiola was playing a style with a weakened defense and still not prioritizing defense. Ruben Diaz and the other fella that he got in the back there have been immense in their current run of form. Right? So without that addressing of that back line, and without getting those players to get it within their head that they have to defend strongly, they will not be in the position they are today.
And let's admit.
But that had nothing to do with
City has the best squad in the league. Like that's not this.
I know what I said. Nothing. I know what I said. I said Chelsea was possession focused and they did not prioritize defense, and they will get eat for lunch if they are leaving 2 poor defenders at the back. I don't remember the father's name. He was playing at left back.
So will Chelsea finish in the top 4, guys?
No.
Depending on how Spurs goes. Depending on Spurs results.
Spurs ain't getting top 4.
Regardless of how Spurs finishes, Chelsea will not finish in the top 4.
Yeah, it's unlikely. I don't see it happening. I think top 6 right now.
I think that's a good segue. That's a good segue, Dom,
for them.
into Leicester City. Leicester City could be the deciding factor of who comes fourth because
I think Leicester will not be in the top four either, in my view. I don't believe they will be in the top four. I think this is my thing about Leicester. I think they play good football. They have a positive unit. I think the players they have are good quality in terms of their starting 11. I have doubts as to whether they have quality in that, in terms of whether they could,
they don't. You don't got
right. So I don't think exactly. And then even games like today, they lost again to Leeds. I mean, a Leeds United side that
after having the lead,
right? You understand? I mean, we've heard
another team that Rohan, another team that Rohan criticized. Another team that Rohan unjustly criticized.
Yeah, has highly criticized.
But something that is a trend, right? We can see that on the program going forward.
Me saying
the man is a genetic dissenter.
What is unjust about me saying that if Leeds United to have a successful season, they need to finish in top 10?
That's no, it isn't. No, it isn't. They need to stay in the Premier League, Rohan.
They need to stay in the Premier League. I think that's it.
After 16 years of being out of the Premier League, your first season back in the Premier League is not going to be finished in the top half. It's going to be survival.
Exactly, Rohan. Come on.
There's no two ways about that. There's no two ways about that, Rohan. There's no two ways about that. The first objective. Hold on, sir. Please hold on. Let me allow me to finish.
You go.
The first objective of any promoted team is to stay in the Premier League. It's survival. And then afterwards you build on that. In the first season, I understand you might talk about the profile of Bielsa and whatever, but mind you, Bielsa was with these men in the championship. So it's not as if they just brought in this manager and he brought the team up from there. They understand this was going to be a project. The first objective is survival. And right now, of the three promoted teams, they look the most likely to stay up, not so? Which is all I was trying to tell you.
Mainly because the bottom three gone already.
It don't matter. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They don't need to finish in the top 10.
Rohan, this is the example.
They don't need to make Europe. They don't need to make Europe. They just need to survive.
Like Leicester, when Leicester won the season, they barely survived the year before. And their target coming into the new season was to survive. They end up winning the Premier League, yes, but their target.
So let me ask this question to the entire panel here. Since we on Leicester City, right? Can Leicester City win the title? And Flick said he don't believe they can finish within the top four, which I wholeheartedly agree with. What will the top four look like at the end of the season?
Top four?
Yeah. What would the top four look like at the end of the season?
Man City's winning the league. Man City's going to win the league. Liverpool is going to be in that top four.
Definitely, I believe so.
You know what? I honestly feel like United are going to end up staying in that top four. You know? I feel so. Even if they scrape the fourth, I feel like they're going to be inside there.
And I can add my fourth to you.
Call the name, AJ.
My fourth is Tottenham Hotspur. I can say it for you, bro.
I can't say it. I can't form my mouth to say those words. But
Tottenham to finish.
There's a possibility that team could be the other team. There's a possibility.
So let me hear you, Rohan.
I'll admit that.
Let me hear you. Top four as well.
I thought you had Leicester.
City. No, I mean, don't listen to me, you know. But anyhow,
not really.
City, Pool, United, and Spurs. There are teams at the beginning of this season that were receiving a large amount of gas. All right? A large. But luckily, the flatulence has been released. Everton, Leicester, Leeds, Aston Villa. These are clubs that man was arguing was going to be top four.
I don't think nobody really had Leicester. No, not Leeds or Aston Villa.
Let me just explain something to you, Rohan. Arsenal is in 10th place. And they're only 10 points away from Manchester United. That's how close the table has been.
Of course, this is a very
you
close
understand. So anybody within that same numbering from 2 to 10th can still finish within the top four, and that includes teams like West Ham, Southampton, Aston Villa, who still have games in hand.
Finish top four.
I'm just saying in terms of the structure that we presently have. I'm not saying they're finishing the top four, but they're in with an opportunity, which might be a small bracket of chance, but they're still in with an opportunity as well. My top four is still City winning the league, Liverpool finishing second, and you could interchange Tottenham and Manchester United.
I think those are the safest bets right now, to be fair.
And if you're betting, you might bet on something else like that.
They're the safest bets.
All right, I actually gonna take a little contrarian view, and this is just overwatching my side the last 3 games. I think that Spurs are in a very troubling situation. So you had a circumstance where at the beginning of the season we were performing quite well.
Hey, we're top of the table.
It's the first time we touched the top in 6 years, man. Know me. That's like how you feel at Milan right now, right? That's how you feel at Milan right now. You know, the first time.
Milan wins. Milan wins.
Nah,
Milan has one title.
There's no comparison.
A little different.
No, go ahead.
It's abnormal to be in that number 1 pole position, so you gotta feel a little bit when you reach it.
Enjoy yourself when you're there. I get you.
No, exactly. Now the troubling thing that I've noted is, one, the strengthening and even with the draw yesterday, the increasingly encouraging performances from Arsenal, the new manager at Chelsea, and to me, what I could only describe as a hapless shit, which is Tottenham Hotspurs. It seems to me as though a lot of players that we were depending on and a lot of players that we were looking at as potentially coming into the own, etc., all these adjectives you want to use, are doing what Spurs do. We are being the definition of Spursy. And that could lose that 4th spot to a club, even Leicester, Arsenal, etc.
If you all play the football, you all play today, you ain't got no chance, me.
Listen. Right? I need to say something here after the Spurs fan has spoken. I need to talk here, right? I need to get this point across. I remember at the beginning of this season when this team signed Gareth Bale. You this front 3, boy. It can be Kane, Son, and Bale, but nobody can stop these men. But Rohan, Gareth Bale son at Tottenham?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Vacation. I'm
just trying. It's just the fact that I have to even ask that question. It just shows you how. I don't even want to say how the mighty have fallen, just how that situation has crumbled, right?
No, he's a tremendous disappointment. I think actually the best thing Gareth Bale could do for
his
career.
He's a weak mentality. He got weak mentality.
No, I don't think he has a weak mentality. I think his body is finished. I think actually the best thing Gareth Bale could do for himself and his career is end his contract and walk away gracefully. Maybe get into something else. He cannot play football at the professional level, at the highest professional level.
I wouldn't go as far as to say
I wouldn't go so far.
I do not think he can. I do not think he can go to MLS and have a splash either.
No. Come on, Rohan, seriously,
bro. You're not watching this man. He cannot run.
No, listen.
He still has touches. He still has the skill. He still has the mental. But his body is failing him.
Right. Say that he cannot play to the levels that we once know him to play at. But don't say
he could come to DC United and be a central mid, boy.
Maybe.
Yeah. But that could segue into our next topic as well. Flick, this is primarily where you will thrive, because obviously you lead in the table in Serie A. Crowned winter champions. Do you believe you can hold first place? And you know, who you see as your greatest competitors at this?
I can give you 2 answers. I think I would like, as an AC Milan fan, I would like to finish the season on top. That would be ideal for me, given where we've come from in the last couple of years. Realistically speaking, I am not sure. I've always told you all this throughout the group chat. Top 4 is still my target. That's still the realistic objective of my club. I think we've been doing well. We're in the lead. So obviously you can get, as you say, sensationalized and sense, yeah, boy, we can win the league. But I have to be realistic. My only issue is whether we have quality in terms of the depth of our squad, whether we have enough replacements to replace these people. We went in the market, we bought some players. We see how they improve and how they settle in. I think Maldini and co are trying to tie up whoever else they can. At these last moments, I see they're looking at Douglas Costa from Munich that came back to Juventus as a possible destination. We're looking at some people, so we don't know. I would like to win. Whether we can win, I think we have winners in the squad. I think we have players who have won things, and we got big players. We got Zlat, we got Mandzukic, we got Simon Kjaer. So we have players who have been experienced and they could, uplift the squad. I think, Maldini in the back room, a champion. I think we have there's a good feeling around the club. In terms of my competitors, I think Inter Milan, obviously, they've been playing good football, and Juventus. I think Inter, given the fact that they're out of Europe, and poor showing as usual. They're poor showing.
You needed to add that part, right? Of course.
So the fact that they're out of Europe, it means that they will have some favorable fixture list in the next couple of months. Yes, you may make a run in the Coppa Italia, but that's not going to be as physically taxing as if you compete on all three fronts. So that in itself makes it an interesting title race for Inter. I think Juventus now are coming into their own. I think they're signing. I think their players. I think they still remain the best squad in Italy. I think they have a very, very good squad, and I think it's just for Pirlo to get it together. Hopefully, they could drop some more points, but who knows? But I think Inter and Juve remain the number one targets. I think Inter just has a slight advantage because of the fixture list, and I think I put Juventus has a chance as well too. But given the fact that Pirlo is a relatively new coach and there's a new experience for him, I think that may have a factor in terms of when it comes down to the end, in terms of whether he crosses the line in first or not. But other than that, I think Inter and Juventus are the two main rivals, but I would like to win for sure.
I agree with you.
If they can win for sure, you know how they can get on, boy. You and that's going to hear for the next the next couple of months till September till the league start. They're not going to hear me, but
I think you covered all the bases.
Yeah, once I finish top four, I honest with you, like if you had asked me before the season start, Graeme, I would have signed top four one time, like. I would have saying top four.
I think Inter also aided you with knocking you out to the Coppa Italia as well.
Mm-hmm.
That lessons the more fixtures. That lessons
the experts there did it for Conte.
I'll be honest with you.
Treats him poorly.
I'll be honest with you. Before we played Juventus, and I know that I had to play Inter, I had almost resigned that we could lose that Coppa Italia game for the said very reason of the squad, the fixture list. But when we lost the game to Juventus and then we lost the game to Atalanta, I was worried about what a defeat would do to the squad in terms of, we finished, obviously, we last year we lost one game we lost 0 games in the league. We lost one game the whole from the lockdown until the end of the year, and that was in the Europa League. And then we were, unbeaten for the entire season. We lost only 2 games. So we had a good form. I was worried about what a loss the Inter would do, but in the context of everything, I still think we recovered. So I don't mind losing on the Coppa Italia because I'm being real. As I said, I was never looking to win all these trophies. We doing well.
I wouldn't necessarily say it is a blessing, Rohan, because any opportunity to win a trophy is something that AC Milan would want at this present moment. Even Inter Milan, you want to compete for all trophies that are there to be taken. And the Coppa Italia has shown that it is one of those trophies that Milan, Inter should be looking to get at this stage.
For sure.
So I don't take your point in terms of that it's a blessing, because if AC Milan doesn't win the league, how is it a blessing?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to take the point. Is the truth. Listen.
No, it can't be the truth because AC Milan doesn't win. How is it a blessing?
Because they do not have a deep squad. There is no AC Milan fans that I spoke with that express any interest in trying to prioritize going further in Coppa Italia.
Because people always downside the
we're not prioritizing. I think
it's a sensible position to take.
I think what Dom is saying is that you still want to win. You still want to compete. You still want to be as
competitive. You play a game, you want to win. But that's why it's a blessing in disguise.
It can only be a blessing if AC Milan win the title. If they do not, then it is something that they can look back on and say, well, maybe we could have performed better in this competition. It's something that the men could have held high and celebrated at the end of the season.
What he's saying is
you cannot say a blessing at this stage.
Right. What he's saying,
are they in a better way?
Win, we haven't got an advantage by being knocked out. Basically, what he's saying, like,
but you got the advantage now. When you ever play table tennis, when you juice and you get advantage, that's where you at now. You advantage right now.
But I'll show you something. But the advantage would have been because AC Milan is still in the Europa League. The Europa League, like Flick said, is more mentally and physically taxing. Traveling to these far-off destinations as well could prove detrimental to AC Milan's season in Serie A. So when you say it's a blessing, you got to look at the Europa League as well.
I'm talking about in that particular game, it was probably best for them to take the L and go out.
I'm not saying that they went out.
I don't think. I'm not saying that they went out with that mentality.
Rohan, I have to disagree with you today, tomorrow, and every day after that because you're saying absolutely nothing that makes sense. It's not logical. It's not logical.
Of course, it's logical. If you have a not a deep squad, then you have to prioritize.
But Rohan, what Dom is basically saying is that it's not every day you have a chance to win a trophy. So any chance you're in a competition to win a trophy, you should always, try to be competitive.
And you did, and it was competitive.
I
mean, we were in a good position up to the point
until Zaha said off.
But I mean, that's a different argument.
Guys, Rohan doesn't understand the concept of winning trophies. Yeah.
Apologies.
Man is back Tottenham. He don't understand what winning a trophy means. Just load the guy a little bit.
Fair enough. In the context of what Mr. Williams is saying, I could sympathize with Rohan. He may not appreciate it.
But Flick, there's one thing you didn't mention, which I think is a little bit strange, which is Cristiano Ronaldo. Even in his current form, even in his older man now, age and etc., you cannot discredit that many years. This is Cristiano Ronaldo's time. Between now and the end of the season is when he puts in work. So this is why I found it notable that you didn't mention the fact that
I can't gas you anymore. That you don't need any more gas.
You must gas.
I don't need. I don't want to
speak the obvious. The most important trophy to Cristiano Ronaldo right now for Juventus Football Club is to win that Champions League.
Yeah,
that is what they've set out to hire these managers and put for these players because the goal is to win the Champions League. Even with Pirlo's inexperience, you still have Cristiano Ronaldo. You did everything possible to get this man to the club. It's to win the Champions League.
I will make a bold statement.
Bold
statement, right? And y'all can quote me on this, right? AC Milan will be the next Italian club to lift a European trophy.
All right, see ya. Get it.
Wow, this guy.
AC Milan will be the next Italian club to lift a European trophy.
This on record.
Yeah. So this well saved.
I said it.
Yeah. And it's quite a possibility. I don't think it's all the realm.
I believe that deep down inside.
Because AC Milan finishing the top 4.
I don't know when.
Investment, because you do have investment.
But we will be the next Italian team to lift the European trophy.
I taking a picture of this, Graeme.
That's fine. You can do whatever you want.
The Spurs man can't say that, so you gotta understand, right?
As much as you've
I was more recent in the Champions League final than
There's no trophies for second place.
As you remember your words.
I like when you use my terminology.
Well, you used it, sir.
And also, it sounded just now a lot like you were making the point that Juve should prioritize Champions League over the league, just like what I suggested Milan should do. Sounds like you were making that argument. I don't know if you want to go further.
No.
But it sounds like you were saying Juve should prioritize Champions League over the league.
Andrea Pirlo will prioritize all competitions at this stage.
Oh, okay.
He has a big squad. He has the personnel necessary to mount a decent front on all competitions. I think that Juventus will be looking to make noise in all 3 competitions. They're 3rd place right now. They're right on the cusp hitting Inter Milan. 1 game behind them.
If they had to choose to save Ronaldo for a competition,
it would be Champions League for sure.
It would be Champions League.
I think most European clubs right now want Champions League. I think City want Champions League. I think Munich wants. I think PSG wants Champions League
for sure.
So I think Liverpool would also focus on Champions League. You have Atletico Madrid. You have Madrid. I mean, Barca and may not believe they could get it, but that's still a target for them. So
the thing about Bayern Munich is that they basically have won the league. That's what it's been like. So prioritizing the Champions League is for them the next factor.
But what I was saying,
go ahead.
Now you go ahead. Now before I say it would be gratifying for me if we were to deny Juventus a 10th straight title, though. It would be gratifying.
It would be great for Serie A.
So my point on that is I love to hear your Milan fans talk. I love the confidence coming out of the Milan camp as a unit. I love to see it. I really want the Milan clubs to do well. personally, I'm going to pick Juventus to win the league again. And I'm going to pick Juventus every single year until someone actually stops.
That's fine, and that's a safe bet. That's a safe bet. The bookies will buy you will get good odds on.
No, Flick. Hearing Mr. Williams speak on that, right? I want to hear why he rules out the Milan clubs.
It's not necessarily me ruling out the Milan clubs.
He's just accepting the quality of Juventus.
It's just I think.
So you don't think that Inter Milan strengthened the club in terms of the personnel necessary to win the league?
I think Inter made some very good adjustments. I think in terms of personnel, I think AC Milan did the same thing as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love to see all teams flying high, but I will have to be wrong on this. I'm going to pick Juventus to win the league until someone else wins it. So I'm going to have to.
In all fairness to AJ, I think it will be Juventus' title to lose. They've been the reigning champions. They've strengthened. They've added quality to the squad. Obviously, the change of manager, which in itself is an adjustment, but as a manager who's been in the team, been in the system, knows the personnel, he's been there already. So it's not that much of a disadvantage. So really and truly, all the elements really point in favor of Juventus.
Coming down to this time of year, I feel like this is essentially the same squad that won last year, right? So they know what it's about. I'm not saying that Milan doesn't have that metal.
No, the thing about that, Georgie, is that they've added Morata.
They've added Mackenzie. They've added Chiesa. They've added Kulusevski.
So in the grand scheme of things, you think that they've strengthened?
For sure.
I think they strengthened the depth. I think they strengthened the depth of the team.
Sure. Definitely.
I think they did what they had to. Like,
definitely.
Yeah, like I don't think McKennie is like an immense player. He to use your earlier word.
He's doing, but
I don't think he'll be a talisman, but he's a depth player. And Morata's familiarity, and he seems to have come in and he's fitting in well.
He likes his city. He's familiar with it. He's been there before.
It's
a comfortable situation for him. So, But that leads me.
I'll pick Inter though. Ronaldo still leading the league in scoring. Ronaldo is still leading the league in scoring. And
followed closely by a familiar character by the name of Romelu Lukaku.
But
I just want you to
remember
the key word there is followed.
Just remember, right? Just remember how close Zlatan is, and he's played less games.
Much less games, yeah.
Just remember.
I'm hoping that Zlatan is actually suspended.
Those are all fair points.
I'm hoping Zlatan is suspended. I'm hoping Zlatan is suspended for the fracas that.
For suspension. They said it's only for Coppa Italia. It's only for Coppa Italia.
No, he's being investigated.
Yeah,
is it?
Oh, really?
I don't think it will happen either. Wow, Zlatan is too big for the league.
Too big in the league.
No, but you believe that.
Then you have to make an example of someone like Zlatan Ibrahimovic to sample situations like this, because this speaks volumes on racism.
But
this is something that is very serious.
You believe that he was being racist in his comments? You believe he was being racist in his comments towards Lukaku? Yes or no?
Speaking towards his culture.
Wait. Do you believe he was being racist in his comments to Lukaku? Yes or no?
Yes.
I don't believe that. I don't believe. If you look at the entirety. No. I'm gonna, and this is where I'm going to take it outside of me being a supporter of AC Milan. If you look at the context of everything around Zlatan in terms of the narrative, in terms of the source of what he said, given the fact that in terms of the testimonies from people who've interacted with him on several occasions. You've even had Pogba come out in support, who's also a very close friend of Lukaku, their former teammates. When you look at the context of everything that is being said about Zlatan and being racist, it does not align. I don't believe.
But that begs the question.
I don't believe
that can be said of various players too.
What's the difference between that and the situation?
Are we talking about this particular scenario? At the end of the day, the fact that he used the word donkey is being publicized, and that's being the focus point. That's it, right. But there are stories. There are stories behind why he would have said what he said. There are some instances where he said that when
Lukaku has denied.
But I mean, at the end of the day, he can deny that. Fine. At the end of the day, our perception of reality is always different. So at the end of the day,
it's not like
it doesn't necessarily mean that has not been the rationale for why Zlatan did what he did. I personally don't believe he is racist. I don't.
The voodoo thought is why he may suffer from a 10-game ban. The information is out there that I'm telling you, check the information. It's out there. Zlatan could potentially face a ban close to 10 games.
I don't.
Close to 10 games.
I don't. I think that's just being.
He may get a similar
I think not. I don't think he's going to get it. I think
he may get a similar reprimand, maybe a fine. There's a possibility of maybe 1 or 2 games.
Any band that's given, I feel that they both have to share any blame. So if you want 10 games for Zlat, 10 games for
no.
What?
Lukaku,
this is absolutely preposterous. I don't even want to lean into this.
I will kill you. I will shoot you in your head. So we're saying the death of somebody, and we're talking about killing someone. And we talk about being racist.
Yeah, it was a reaction, though, Flick. It's incomparable here. It's a reaction.
But come on, I don't care if it's a reaction.
I think Zlatan crossed.
When you cross the line, Zlat is when you can get a reaction like that. It speaks to one's culture and someone's pigmentation. You're going to get that reaction from any black player.
Are you prioritizing the effect of racism over the life of somebody? So you have all right. So taking this for this, you have one man who's
Graeme,
calling a man.
Stop. Graeme, you're going down a road that's unnecessary. I am a Zlatan fanboy.
Listen, let me develop my point first. Dom is saying that he deserves 10-game ban. If that's what it is,
I'm not saying he deserves.
He said
that's what I'm saying. The information is out there.
Right. I am saying to you, if he's going to suffer a ban, I believe that he and Lukaku should be suffering the same ban. You two disagree. That is fine. I am saying to you, you have in one context a man making a comment which is deemed to be racist, right? So that, in your view, may attract a certain ban. On the other end, you have somebody who's threatening to kill someone. On the other end, so you're saying to me, we are going to give Mr. Zlatan this amount of gains for making a racist statement, right? And we're going to give Lukaku a lesser ban for threatening to kill somebody. And I'm saying no. If you're going to send a message, it has to go on both parties. Whether
it's not. You're not sending a message.
Flick, I have a question to ask you though. What is the main issue that the sport is trying to fight right now?
Correct.
But this is my thing.
No.
It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no.
Hey. No, I didn't answer the comprehension. This is a short answer.
It doesn't mean that the sport doesn't have other issues as well. So why?
And I'm not saying no, but I think you are getting away from the point. The fact of the matter is, if it is deemed to be some sort of prejudice statement based on a cultural context,
he deserves
his back. If you're saying, hold on, wait. If you're saying Lukaku deserves a ban for his comments as well, cool. I don't think they should be the same length though. That is what that's what I'm arguing against. That's what I'm pushing back against with your point. I do not think the ban should be the same.
And I'm saying to you, while you may not agree, right? I'm just saying at the end of the day, you have a balance to basically struck here, because you're basically saying, okay, one thing is much more serious than the other. And I'm not saying that racism is not a embedded problem in football across all boards, and they're being taken, the necessary steps and precautions to try to eradicate it from the sport. But in the same breath, you're also looking at somebody who's threatening somebody's life. So, whether it is a legitimate threat or not, it has been captured on the television.
They're not on the same level. If you want to argue Lukaku should get a ban for his comments, cool. But those two cannot be the same.
I am a Zlatan. I'm a Zlatan fanboy, and I think that Zlatan is in the wrong.
Don't keep you both good on the lane.
I think Zlatan is in the wrong in this scenario because
and Zlatan even started by headbutting the man too.
Yeah, because
but that doesn't make him racist.
Look at that! Take off the Milan hat, please, sir.
Edison. No, I don't think we're having the same conversation. No one in their right mind, except for Lukaku, who's probably angry right now, so he's not in his right mind, is calling Zlatan a racist. What the discussion is that Zlatan expressed racist sentiment.
I don't think it worked.
Fully in the view of everyone in the public domain. Let me develop my point. Fully in the view of the public domain, allowing for everyone to pick up the things on camera. Everyone heard it. Everyone could take it how they want to take it. And it goes anti to the movement and the direction that football is moving in. It is not dissimilar to the Cavani comment to his teammate that he made, and to the other guy from Man City that made a comment on Twitter or whatever it was, is not dissimilar than that. that it was an excessive thing, but it is a statement that in this public domain, in this arena, we are not allowing this type of dialogue to continue. And remember, it was firmly in the camp. Remember, it was firmly in the camp of Cavani's punishment being overblown. However, you have to take a step back and realize that this is an industry effort towards it, and Zlatan is not bigger than.
I agree. Don't get me wrong. I if it is that is deemed for the sport of football in terms of the image that there's something that you want to eradicate. Because at the end of the day, if you look up behind the intention behind why he did it, if for example you do an investigation and you come to the conclusion that the statements made were not necessary to trigger a racist reaction, but at the end of the day, you look at what was said and you say, you know what, it can be considered racist or it can be considered a prejudice statement, and we have to ban you as a result of that, fine. But the original question that started was whether Zlatan was a statement, was made a racist statement. I don't necessarily believe it's a racist statement because in the same breath, the same Cavani, he didn't make it in a racist statement, but at the end of the day, it was deemed to be racist because at the end of the day, if you're doing something, there has to be an intent on your part as well. So you can do something, right? And if the intent behind what you do it is also a factor that has to be taken into consideration. So if I looking at you and say,
Mr. Legal.
You know what I'm saying?
I want to ask like a question from a legal perspective.
That's fine. You could ask a question.
I want to know if so you're really suggesting that these two men should essentially serve the same time, even though one was provoked.
This is all right. Let me ask you a question. So all right. While I may be overstretching and saying that they deserve the same ban, right? And that's maybe the AC Milan supported me, right? But I'm saying at the end of the day, if you're going to serve a ban, they both should be served the bans because while they're not doing the same thing, right? They're not doing the same thing. Their actions in itself were not the professional thing to do.
We agree. We agree with that. That was not the issue for me.
Right. Yeah. So we pass that. In relation to whether somebody was provoked, has a factor in place in terms of what your sentence or the punishment you are eventually given. Yes, that has a lot to say. So you find out if it is deemed that Zlatan was the person who was the one who provoked, who was the one who initiated the contact between the two, then obviously their regard must be given to that in the sense that, well, Lukaku was more a reactionary confrontation more than one that was more, proactive in a sense. So from that standpoint, I can't argue with that because one body would have started the next. But in the same breath, as I said, me personally, I don't believe he was being racist in the statements. I believe he was referring to Lukaku's first touch, where there's something about a bet that he had with Zlat back at Man U, but you're giving $50 for his first touch and all these things. So there's a lot of narrative, whether we can confirm them at this point in time regarding why he would have said what he said. And I believe, obviously, at the appropriate time, he would be able to put forward the narrative to support why he said it and why, and basically to dilute the presumption that it was racist in the sense, yes, it may come off a little racist, but I was actually joking with you because we used to go back at Man U and joke about this and we used to talk about that back then. And you know what I'm saying? So you got to look at context, you know what I'm saying? But in keeping with what the football world is saying in terms of what they're trying to eradicate, and obviously in the eyes of the public, you got to do something about it because you can't.
Peter pay for Paul and Paul pay for all.
When you allow those things, then obviously you create a problem in the sense that somebody else going to find say, well, no, you do this and you do that. So you cut out everything one time. So from that standpoint, I don't have a problem with him getting a ban. But I personally don't believe it was said with any racist intent. That's just my take.
On that note,
thank you for that extended soliloquy.
Yeah, because on that note, we will move on to have Atletico Madrid won the league. Can we say fundamentally at this stage of the season that it's won?
No.
If you go on percentages, I would say 75%. If you go on percentages, I would give about 75%.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I
kind of agree with Flick. I think it's more. I would say that in terms of if you're looking at it from a percentage standpoint, it is more than 50%. But I still wouldn't give it 100 at this point.
Yeah, no.
Of course. You want to say 100%.
I mean, some people might be bold and say that. Some people might be bold and say that. Because Juventus winning Serie A is 100% to me, right? But I still.
Somebody remember that. Some of these states. We have that.
I said until I'm proven wrong,
Well, you will be proven wrong, sir.
We got
that. And when you are proven wrong, I want you to raise your hand. Hi.
On record. We got that. We got that.
But I digress. I agree with Flick. I feel like is about 3/4. Mind you, they're only halfway through the season, but they just seem to be the most
consistent.
Consistent, I guess, is the right word. I don't want to say just informed.
They have a man called Luis Suarez that is in ripping form, and he has a vendetta to get against his former employer, so he's highly motivated.
And they've only conceded 10 goals this season. They have the best defense in Europe right now.
Yeah, that's good. They have a 10-point lead with
the goal scoring was the issue.
The goal, and Luis Suarez has solved that.
Solved that.
So,
and with the problems that Real Madrid and Barcelona have.
Right. So it's a combination of things because Real Madrid losing this weekend. So it's one thing that Atletico could have a drop in form, but is the teams behind them to capitalize on that. And Madrid and Barca have not been doing that.
Yeah. Barcelona can't win the league.
No, they can't.
Barcelona are not going to win the league with Ronald Koeman at the helm. He's not.
I know all the politics going on around the club.
Not good. Koeman is garbage. Koeman is garbage. In any case, so
the thing is, Atletico league,
even if it wasn't all that,
10 points,
10
and a game in hand. So they can have a drop in form and still maintain a certain level of leverage on their competitors.
And the thing is, I think it's also a reflection of how poor Madrid and Barca have been as well.
Yes,
because I think as good form that Atletico have been, if Madrid and Barca were in a better place in terms of their football, like what they're doing on the pitch, I think it'll be a much closer battle. And I think both Barca and Madrid are going through a transition. I think Barca more than Madrid, but I think they're going through a transition. I think Simeone has been building his side, I guess, for the longest while in terms of how he wants it. I mean, the squad is essentially the same thing. He got rid of but he sold Thomas Partey, but I mean, it doesn't seem that there has been a void left as a result. So how he has his side set up is he got it playing. He got him playing very good. It almost reminds me of when Barca sold David Villa to Atletico Madrid, and they went on to win the title that year, which is the only title outside of Barca and Madrid that we've been won within the last 10 years or so. That particular title that they won with David Villa. So I feel like it's almost like deja vu again.
The funny thing is too, right? Looking at Real and Barca's record, like it's not even a terrible record.
No, it's not. It's
just that Atletico have been that much better than everyone else. Correct. So I don't see them falling off that much.
Yeah,
and personally, right? This is why I have a hard time calling anyone from Atletico individually. This is why I still can't put Oblak number one because their structure is so solid. I just can't do it. I can't pick Atletico's goalkeeper or individual defenders as the best in the world at the position. Just because of how
their system set up.
Correct. I think they have a
strength, so you're not exposed.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to even when Godin was there and it was Godin is the best center back in the world. I was still a little skeptical. This is just me personally. I just think that the unit is always very much. And look, Godin was so solid. He was the number one. Went into, mind you, Godin was old, so I give him that. But
he was over
30. Nowhere as good at Inter Milan, right?
Now he's at Calgary. He's at Calgary.
That's where he is now today.
And Atletico have still remained defensively solid. And I'm not saying Oblak is not like a top 5 goalkeeper, but I can't.
That's down to the manager.
I cannot.
Simeone has implemented such a philosophy that has made them competitive over the last 8 years that he's been in charge.
Yeah, because you can't say he's number one keeper because Donnarumma is number one.
Oh my God, man!
I can't believe the man.
You see, these are the type of conversations that we cannot have here. And on that note, I think this ends the segment. To be quite honest, like, subscribe, score. You can hit us up on our individual Instagram tags. You can also hit us up on YouTube. Thank you, guys. This was a phenomenal show. I appreciate all the efforts placed into the show. And I would just like the Spurs man to place more thought in the future when he discussing Chelsea Football Club. Right? Thank you.
Yeah.
I went from LA to the A on the run.